Metroidvania games combine both platforming and action RPG elements, and in that sense you can't really gain a proper appreciation of the format without looking into the evolution of both genres. So we have Exidy's 1981 RPG-ish arcade game Venture, which features no platforming to speak of, but definitely builds on the action RPG concept. The game's title leaves no question of its origins and intentions. Venture is obviously a truncated form of Adventure, Warren Robinette's 1979 hack and stab for the Atari 2600. That game in turn derived from Advent, aka Colossal Cave Adventure, the text game that inspired Zork. Venture, Advent, Adventure, they're all cut from the same cloth and all aspire to achieve the same end. With Venture, Exidy took the fundamental concept of those previous games and adapted them for a coin-drop-driven reality. Protagonist Winky journeyed across multiple levels in search of treasure, fighting monsters with a bow and arrow, roaming freely through multi-roomed dungeons. Exidy's choice of platform for Venture demanded a simple game design, so there's not really much to the game. Each level consists of a maze containing 4 rooms, each one holding a different treasure. Winky himself exists as nothing more than a well-armed smiley face, a friendly version of the deadly evil Otto from Stern's Berserk.
Intruder alert, intruder alert. Get the intruder. The intruder must not escape.
Much like the space fighter in Galaxian, Winky can only fire a single arrow at once, with his rate of fire determined not by reload speed, but by how long it takes his projectile to impact with something, be it a wall, surface, or enemy. The game's a little too slow-paced to be deemed a shooter, and too zippy and shallow to be a proper RPG, but it definitely demonstrates some naive tendencies toward the latter. Particularly impressive is the way Venture sort of stumbles into the concept of underworld-overworld that would become a mainstay of RPGs and even games like The Legend of Zelda. Each dungeon into which Winky descends contains 4 rooms with 2 entrances apiece. As you roam the halls that surround the rooms, you'll encounter a legion of huge, skull-like monsters that wander generally, if somewhat randomly, in Winky's direction. The hall monsters are indestructible. In the full level view, Winky is reduced to a tiny dot, too small to make out details, and too tiny to fire arrows. The hall monsters will kill Winky on contact, but you can evade them by ducking into the treasure rooms. Step into a room and the viewpoint zooms in to a different scale, in which Winky returns to his proper size and is able to take on his foes. Inside these lairs, you'll find a treasure to be acquired and a handful of monsters that lurk nearby. You can shoot the monsters, which will collapse into a heap if struck by an arrow. These sequences feel remarkably reminiscent of The Legend of Zelda. Not only does the zoomed-in view bear a striking similarity to Nintendo's groundbreaking Disk System adventure, but so do the creatures within. As you fight snakes, skeletons, and other Zelda-esque foes, you can't shake the sensation that this game had a huge influence on Nintendo. This is especially true in some of the trap rooms, such as the one with the moving walls that can crush Winky, or the one where grabbing the loot will cause a quartet of tiny aimless spiders to turn into a pair of huge yellow spiders that will make a beeline for Winky. When you capture a room's treasure, a hall monster will burst into the dungeon. In the zoomed-in areas, these creatures look huge and solid, and they remain invulnerable to arrows. All you can do is escape, and even then, you need to proceed with caution. The world outside the treasure rooms maintains a certain element of persistence, so it can be dangerous to exit a room through the door you originally entered, as the monsters that were chasing you outside may be lurking where you left them. While it can be a bit unfair in its difficulty level, especially in later stages, Venture offered a remarkable degree of complexity and sophistication for an arcade game of its vintage. Its style and approach feel a lot like modern simplified RPG descendants like Half Minute Hero, though of course it approached the RPG from the other direction. Where such modern games attempt to reduce the RPG to its bare bones, Venture's designers were trying to construct the RPG from raw components. The overall effect, however, is remarkably similar. Of course, this is a very simple game at heart. Venture lacks anything like an upgrade path, its treasures exist only for points. It consists of just a few stages with fixed layouts, and once you beat them all, the game loops at a near impossible difficulty level. And of course, its graphics are barely a step above ASCII visuals. Add some randomness to the layouts, and this could just as easily have been a coin-op rendition of Rogue rather than of Adventure. Nevertheless, with its free-roaming dungeon layouts and RPG trappings, you can see something great taking shape here. Unfortunately, Exidy never credited Adventure's designers, only its composers, so it's impossible to know who actually came up with the game concept. Whoever it was, though, did the world a solid by helping to further define the action RPG concept. That almost makes up for the sheer goofiness of having a protagonist named Winky.